Okay. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to our now Sunday Zooms, where we host expert speakers, both Christians and Jews from all around the world. We are a group of friends here, and our goal is to grow this group of friends. We're a mixture of Christians and Jews, but more than that, we are friends, and we want to invite more people into this circle of friends. Let me do a quick screen share to share with you guys who our sponsors are. This is our sponsor page, sponsored by Ann Stacy's nonprofit, Texans for a Safe Israel. That's her website. Texans for Israel, which is owned by Mike Isley. He was the one who funded this amazing documentary video called I Am Israel. And then by myself, and I have a Taste of Israel, which I blog about Israel, and I also was and hopefully will be bringing tours, food and wine tours to Israel. So we are the ones who are sponsoring this initiative to bring more friends together and grow the group. Now, I want to say just a couple more things before I turn the mic over to Tommy, and that is that we acknowledge that as friends, we have different theological perspectives, and that's okay. We are not going to impose our theology on each other. That's not our goal. We are simply here to really grow the group of friends, and also to teach Gentiles to love and support the Jewish people in the land of Israel based on Genesis 12:3, and to do that with our words and our actions. So our format is going to be more of a talk show. I'm going to ask Tommy some questions, and then at the end, if time allows, we're going to have a Q&A session. So if that all makes sense, let's get started. I want to welcome Tommy Waller of Hayovel. Tommy is based in Israel right now. So Tommy, welcome. What time is it there where you're
at? It is 10 o'clock, 10:08.
10:08 at night.
10:03. Sorry, okay. 10:03. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, welcome. It's good to see
10 o'clock. It's way past bedtime for us farmers here, So we gotta, but yeah. we'll suffer through it.
Good, wonderful. Well, thank you for suffering for our benefit. Last week, just to get us started, you gave us a great overview of everything. You showed us a picture of some things that were happening there in Samaria where you're at. But I want to take a step back, and I want to ask you a few questions that will give us more clarity and more context of what you spoke about last week, which is a recording we recorded last week. If you have not seen that recording, please reach out and I will get you a copy of that. So with that, let's get started. Tommy, I want to go back and I want, if you will, use a map of some kind of Israel to give us a lay of the land of Israel, with us specifically educating us on Judea and Samaria, because that's the heart of what you're talking about and what you're doing. So take it away. Show us some more.
Yeah, it's always good to do a little show and tell here before we get started. And first of all, I'm very honored to be here, especially with our couple of. I just heard. I was running around getting some stuff, and I heard the discussion here with some of the Jewish people that are here, and I heard I believe it was Carol say something about the Fogel family, and I was here. Actually here in Samaria when that happened in Purim, on Purim, and it was a devastating event, and it really changed a lot of our lives. And I just wanted to say that before I got started tonight, because it was it was shocking, because we came out of Purim with a real this celebration, and to get the word that we had lost the family here in Itamar. I can see the community of Itamar right here. If I walk out of this building right here, I can see the whole community from where we're staying here. So it's important, I think, for all of us. And that's why I appreciate AFC so much, is because that I share, have grown to understand the significance of the battle that we're in here in Judea and Samaria. It's not a light thing. It's a huge battle that we have to get the Christian community involved in, because obviously numbers are help us. Numbers help the cause. It's not just a Jewish battle. It is a Jewish battle, but it's not just a Jewish battle. It's all of our battles, and these things, because it speaks against the God that we worship, that we have our allegiance to. So I heard you say that, and it immediately popped into my head about this what the significant thing that this week we're going to remember the Fogel family, and what happened to them. It's just it is amazing that we can live in a community, or stay in here and work in this community, and realize. And I was just talking to a friend today, that it's amazing that these communities are being built up here. And I am going to get to the presentation, Lori. I just wanted to say that, but it is amazing that we live in this community, where the people around us, many of those people want to see the Jewish people annihilated, and we can't be a part of that. We have to look back at history and say, never again with the Jewish people. So I'm very honored to be with you guys here this evening. So, a map. Let's see here. Let me see if I can find it. First of all, I want to show you something else here. I'm sorry I'm doing this, Lori, but you started talking about snow, and I'm going to bring this up
Oh,
here because, yeah, this is hopefully what we're. Let's see. Let me get the slideshow here, and so this is not. I just want to don't be offended. With some people, this is not idol worship. We just actually were having a good. Children were out having a good time, and I'm being funny. It's not, obviously. It's not
that's
a.
cute.
But that's huge. My children. I think three of these are mine. Right? No, four of them are mine. And so these four of the children you see here are mine. This is probably the middle of the night. They were just like when the snow was ready. And so I just wanted to say, in Texas, is anybody in Texas? You guys got to do things big here, but we got a really big snowman here. This is a big thing the children were doing while I was sleeping. They were building this snowman. So, and if you're on Facebook at all, you probably this snowman actually became pretty famous because not all of Israel got snow like we did, because we're on the Mount of Blessing here, and a higher elevation. So if you see pictures of the snow in Judea and Samaria, you're going to see snow in the high places, and then it's not you're not going to see snow in the lower places. So we got the snow, so it was really fun for our guys. And they had a lot of sledding. I can show you a lot of pictures of the sleds, and they were sledding in the vineyards. Where in the world, what children can grow up sledding on the mountains of Samaria, sledding down in between the vineyard rows all the way to the bottom? They had a great time. So here's the map.
It's a great photo, by the way.
This is obviously a very animated map here, but it tells a lot here. And I'm just going to show. You can see my pointer. I should probably have made it a little more, but I'll move it around a little bit. You can see here. This is Samaria, or what the Jewish people call the Shomron. The Christians here are used to hearing about the Good Samaritans. This is where the Good Samaritans lived a long time ago. And so these are the mountains. When we talk about Judea and Samaria, it really is the backbone of Israel. It kind of lays like a backbone for the nation of Israel. some people call it the heartland of Israel. And so we have a very significant place, because when the children of Israel came into Israel, they came in here. They were in Jordan, and they crossed over the Jordan River. It really kind of seems like we're not going to get into that story, but it seems like a long way around getting to the place that they wanted to go. But this is the way they did it. They came in, they crossed the Jordan right here, and they came up the Jordan Valley, and they entered in through a gateway here, right here, which is a place called Shechem, or we call Shechem in Tennessee. We pronounce things differently than Jews do. So I apologize. I'm always telling people this is a Southern dialect that we have. It's a Nashville deal. And so the children of Israel came in here, and they really, this was, and also the place where Abraham in Genesis 12, we talked about that last week, that God, what really kind of stirred me in this whole thing is that God really spoke the universe into existence, but he also spoke this nation into existence. In Genesis 12, we see this is the land. God speaking it from the breathed word. This is the land that I'm going to give you, your descendants. And so these things started connecting with me when I started connecting with the land. When my feet were walking in this place, and I began to see for myself and to hear from my Jewish friends what this was about. So here you have Shechem. This is where Abraham came. This is where he received the promise that this land would be given to his descendants. Now, years later, there is here in Shechem is the Mount of Blessing. It's not listed here, but the Mount of Blessing and the Mount of Cursing, Mount Ebal and Mount Gerizim. And between these two mountains, the Jews came here and divided up. Half the tribes were on one side. I can look out my window right here beside me. You can see the curtains right here. And I can see Mount Ebal from the Mount of Cursing, because I'm sitting here on the Mount of Blessing. And half the tribes were on this mountain, and half the tribes were on Mount Ebal. And Mount Ebal, to Christians sometimes don't really understand, but there is no cursed land in Israel. There's no cursed land. So when I'm looking over here at Mount Ebal, it's a beautiful mountain. Some Christians envision that when they're looking at Mount Ebal, the Mount of Cursing, that it's just this terrible, ugly, desolate place. And actually, if you're walking on the Mount Ebal, you're going to see that there's olive groves, and it's very green right now. It's just beautifully green. So the Mount of Cursing was an illustration. God loved to make illustrations for the children of Israel, and this was a place where He made an illustration. One was a kind of a bridal a presentation, or a marriage presentation, because when the two tribes were on these two mountains, then they made covenant. They took if I could say what the Jewish people told me, they took the ketubah, the marriage contract from Mount Sinai, and they brought it between these two mountains, and they married the land. We see this again in Isaiah 62, talking about the land being married. This land has a covenant place. The dirt and the soil of this land has a covenant place with the people of Israel. This is where they make covenant. So the battle, what's that?
That's excellent. Good about Samaria. Now, what about Judea? Where's Judea and where's Jerusalem, just from a logistical?
Yeah, Judea is south. Okay, you're going to see, all right, here's Bethlehem. Jerusalem is right here.
Okay.
So you have this, Jerusalem's like in the cradle. The mountains of Israel are kind of, you have the northern side of the Shomron or Samaria, and you have the southern Judea, the Judean hills here. You have the Jordan Valley and the Dead Sea, the real desolate places in the Jordan Valley and Jordan here. But the real battle in Israel, and what we hear in the news a lot, is this. Here's Hebron, Kiryat Arba. this Judea and Samaria is what everybody's talking about.
Okay.
These are all of the resolutions that are have being put out by almost 100% by the UN against Israel. Is not just, it's not, you don't have a resolution that's necessarily against Tel Aviv or Haifa. These resolutions are against the occupation. Whenever you see occupation, occupation is always 100% refers to Judea and Samaria.
Okay.
And so for what we're trying to do is we're trying to say that to Christians, particularly, that it matters. And
Okay.
so this is very important for us, for non-Jews especially, and for Jews too, and for all of us, to understand the significance of this place, because these mountains was the place where God spoke. He spoke to the prophets. He spoke to Abraham, to
Okay.
Isaac, to Jacob. And so this is important for us because we need to pay attention when God, into places that God speaks. These are not insignificant places. These are significant places to
Right.
God.
Okay.
Uh,
Let me ask you, Tommy, about that
yeah,
specific place, Samaria and Judea, also known as the Shomron and the Judean mountains. This, the green dotted line surrounding the perimeter of Samaria and Judea on this map, is that what they are calling the green line? Is that also called the West Bank? Just so we have context in case people
yeah,
have
yeah,
never heard that.
yeah.
Okay. Okay. Good. Now, one more.
We're not allowed to say West Bank, but
Yeah, the world says West Bank, right? But we know the Bible
right.
calls it Judaism. Okay, let me, before I go to the next question I have for you, just one more time, can you put your cursor and show us where you are physically located
All
right
right, where I'm at. So you have Ariel right here,
now?
and Shechem is right here. Shechem is right below me, so I'm right here. This will be our little mountain
Okay,
right here. I can go to the edge of our mountain here and look down on Shechem, or
okay,
Shem,
thank you.
as the
Okay, wonderful.
Jewish people
Well,
know.
I want to go on to the next question because we are anxious to hear your personal story of how you, Tommy Waller from Tennessee, ended up right there at Shechem almost. And so
Yeah.
this is an amazing story you have here. So tell us, how did you, as a Christian from Tennessee, become friends with Orthodox Jews? And you had no hidden agenda to try to proselytize or any of that. You just became friends with them, and you ended up moving from Tennessee to Samaria, Israel, living in one of the most Orthodox Jewish communities. Please tell us your story. How in the world did this happen?
Well, that is a great question, and probably one I'm still trying to figure out. 17 years ago, um, I made a trip here, um, with a couple of business guys. They were looking for, it was after 9/11. Uh, there was some products that were being um, invented and produced here, that was these guys were very interested in. They invited me to come along. Now I was farming at the time, but I knew these guys, and they said, "Hey, Tommy, come along. You're a friend of ours, and you know, come along and join us." And I did. And when we got here, it came for 2 weeks. Um, it was May 2004, and a guy when we got here said, I want you, Tommy, you're farming. Well, I want you to meet this friend of ours. He's a farmer. He actually has vineyards in Samaria. And sadly, I was a typical Christian. I didn't know a lot, especially about the logistics and a lot of the issues and things like that, that was going on. The significance of what was happening in Judea and Samaria. I may have been somewhat aware of it, but it wasn't on significantly on my radar. We went up we came here to the Mount of Blessing, Har Bracha, and was introduced to this farmer. His name was Nir Levi, and Nir Levi is an Orthodox Jew. Um, and he took me down to a vineyard. It was just a small little vineyard, very very small, quaint little place, and but it was a vineyard. And he took it. He actually read to me this scripture, and I want to just read this because I think it's important for you to understand where. Um, whoops, I'm getting there. What this is. What he actually read. He read this to me. He said he read this. The Lord has appeared of old to me, saying, "Yes, I have loved you with an everlasting love." This is Jeremiah 31. The prophet Jeremiah is saying this. He said, "Therefore, with loving kindness I have drawn you, and again I will build you, and you shall be rebuilt, O Virgin Israel. You shall again be adorned with your tambourines, and you shall go forth with the dancing of those who rejoice. You shall yet plant vines on the mountains of Samaria, and the planters shall plant and eat them as ordinary food." Now, and as he's saying this, he's saying that Jeremiah had a vision. This was what was going to happen. Rabbi Melamed, who's the chief rabbi here of Har Bracha, he said, "We came here and we started settling, Judea and Samaria, and we opened the scriptures up to see what we were supposed to do, and the Bible said to plant vineyards, and that's what they did." To the Jewish people in Israel here, especially in Judea and Samaria, the Jewish people see prophecy, the Bible, as a to-do list. Christians mainly see the prophecy as something to watch, something to kind of observe, but Jews do prophecy. And I realized that and when he read this scripture to me, I realized for the first time in my life that God was touchable, that the mystic faith that I had that was, just trying to conjure up this kind of religious deal that I was trying to experience God in some way. But here he was in these vines, these mountains. This was a desolate place. This is a place where Mark Twain, said, um, that it was he made the announcement in 1860s that there was nothing here, absolutely
Right.
nothing.
Right.
And so I came here seeing this new phase of restoration,
It's amazing.
and so it radically changed my life. It literally radically changed my life. It's interesting, in the next verse here it says, "For there shall be a day when watchmen shall cry, when watchmen will cry on Mount Ephraim, arise and let us go up to Zion, to the Lord our God." And it was a Jewish, several Jews told me that this word for watchman actually is the Hebrew word now for Christian, and it's not notzrim. And I think that this is there's several prophecies that really touch me. I'm a very I was seeking, looking for God, and I was seeing God for the first time through these my Jewish friends, these people that I was meeting, and it was really overwhelming to me. It was something that I had really had never experienced before in my life. So this was the beginning of a journey. I looked at Nir and I said, "Nir, I'm not Jewish." I said, "Well, what can I do? I want to do something." He said, and Nir looked at me and he said, "We need help." And here we are, 17 years later, over 1,000% growth in all the vineyards. It's hard not to even get emotional about it, but
Yeah. Right.
um,
It's an amazing
we
story.
have millions, literally millions of bottles. When we started, there was just a few, a vineyard, a winery operated out of a one winery in Sagot. Yaakov Berg was operating this small little place that he had a couple of barrels of wine, and now there are literally millions of bottles of wine being produced on the mountains.
Amazing. Okay, I want to just
So
stop for a second. I want to make sure that I understand this story. So 17 years ago, you were asked to go on a trip to Israel to meet farmers because you were a farmer and they wanted to introduce you to what was going on there. And so you ended up in Samaria where most people don't go. Most Christians don't go to Samaria on their tours. But this
yeah,
was,
yeah,
yeah,
I didn't.
so for some reason you ended up there. You met this guy, this Jew named Nir, and he started reading scripture to you, and that changed your mind. And now you're living there, helping them with their farms. So that is
Yeah,
incredible.
I didn't write the script. I didn't. I had nothing to do with the. People say, how do you do it? Sherry and I, my wife. First of all, my wife and I are very unusual people, and
What do you
you'll
mean by that?
understand.
Tell us.
Well, first of all, we have 11 children, and so that right out of the box makes us really strange. Okay, but it's funny because, and it is funny, but where would we fit in Israel? We're going to fit in here in this because the people here and the Jewish people in general revere family. They love family, and it's never something to joke about. Americans and even Christians will, we heard all the terrible things said about us having too many children or whatever. But
Right.
it seemed like in the Jewish community that there was a real reverence for family and real reverence for to have this kind of lifestyle. So we came here with the Jewish people respected us. A lot of the Jewish people respected us just because of the
Your
picture
family.
that we had here.
Okay.
So yeah.
But now, did they welcome y'all with open arms and say, come join our Orthodox community, you Christians from Tennessee?
Yeah, that would have been a great. I would have liked to have written that part in,
Tell us
but
how it
unfortunately,
happened.
that didn't happen exactly like that.
Okay.
You know what? There were Jews that had a Rabbi Malamed and the community of Har Bracha, for the most part, had a real vision for what this was supposed to look like. And what is it supposed to look like? 2,000 years we were the adversaries, the
Who's we?
non-Jewish world.
The non-Jew.
We Christians were the adversaries of the Jewish people. We opposed them at every point. I mean, it was a terrible history. And but and Rabbi Malamed, whose family was suffered, most of his family was murdered in the Holocaust.
Mm.
Not a likely person that would say, "Hey, oh wow, Christians, great. We need more of you guys."
Right.
But to Rabbi Malamed, he saw something bigger, and he actually, shared that with me. That this is the Jews are a light to the nations. That we are called to bring the nations. At least once a year to Israel. There's going to be a great gathering. He has visions of creating a place here so that non-Jews can come and make pilgrimage to the land of Israel. He's ready for that to happen, and so he saw us, and he tells a story of seeing us in the early years coming to just help near. We were just coming to help near. That's what we came to do in the beginning. And as we were working in the vineyards, Rabbi Malamed was watching us, and he said he wept. It just made him cry. It makes me cry. But this was a significant time of us seeing something that he was sharing with us. And we talk about not having an agenda or whatever. For me, the seeing God doing this was something that was undeniable, and something that I couldn't argue with. There
Right.
was no theology that could change the reality that God was bringing the people, the exact people that he said he would bring back to this place.
Right.
And they would plant these vineyards, later on in Isaiah 61 says that the foreigners will actually come and help, plant these vines
It's
and be
amazing.
your plowmen and your vine dressers.
Right.
Rabbi Melamed saw these things, and so it was it was just a very beautiful relationship. Unfortunately, there were communities, um, radical Jewish communities. These people that were coming back and resettling the Judea and Samaria were, we and for our position, we deserved everything that they threw at us, every accusation, every we were guilty, and we came here realizing that we had to take whatever was given to us because we deserved that as a
Right.
people. Now, I know that Christians don't say I wasn't part of the Holocaust. I wasn't part. The problem is that we have been we weren't part of fixing the problem, so we were part of continuing the problem.
Right.
And so this is the situation here. Was a very humbling. I made one trip to Yad Vashem and made I don't know how many trips to Yad Vashem, and it always speaks to me very strongly, the Christian position against what God had put his name on. And God has put his name on a land, and God put his name on a people
That's
for the sanctification of his name. And so we have to, the whole world has to acknowledge that God's name is on, and recognize, not to say that the Jews aren't, and I know, and sometimes it's uncomfortable for Jews to maybe hear things like this, but Jews are human, but they are just as fallible as any of us are. And we're living in that neighborhood right now. So it is what God is doing with, but also as God is giving the identity and bringing it up to this place with the Jewish people, he's also giving us an identity. He's giving non-Jews a place and a part to play in all of this. And I
right.
think this is what the beautiful thing that happened to us. There were rabbis that said, Hayuvel is worse than Iran. The worst thing that could happen is to allow us to be here. There were threats on my life. There were posters from one end of Samaria to the other, to Judea. There were posters of saying, I mean, huge, like movie posters, and 3 or 4 in every bus stop, um, saying that I should be taken out. There was really some hatred
Wait, I'm
there
sorry
for.
to free interrupt you. Are you saying there were posters of your face and your name throughout the
Yeah.
area?
Oh yeah. Yeah. And it was the thing was is that it was, it's sad, but there was real concern, and these were a lot of the people that we love today, we love in this community.
Right. This is a good point for me to ask you another question. But before I do, I just want to pause and go back to when you saw those vines at Near's Vineyard on your first trip, and you said God was touchable for you for the first
Mhm.
time. And I
Right.
touched those same vines myself in Near's Vineyard. And I actually say the same thing. When you touch Near's vines, when you touch that vine, you're touching prophecy, you're touching God. It is so powerful. It is life changing, and I so can relate to what you're saying. Now, back to the time whenever they did not welcome you with open arms because of the history of the Christian church against the Jews. Unfortunately, it's terrible, but what you endured from those Jewish people who were resisting y'all to come, they just did not have the vision yet that the chief rabbi of Har Baruch has or had. So last week you showed a picture of some what you called radical Jews picking up rocks and trying to restore Joshua's altar that was recently demolished by Palestinian terrorists. And you said something about that picture because you said mixed in with those Jews were some Christians, and
Yeah.
that picture was very powerful for you. Can you share that picture and re-explain what you're
Yeah, I
talking
have it
about?
right here. Last week I was talking about it because we,
Yes, this picture.
unfortunately, the Joshua's altar, which was been discovered not too long ago, they discovered they found what they believe to be, and it seems very certain that it is Joshua's altar. Joshua, again, what I was telling you about, that this area is a very significant place as far as God putting His name on this place. If you go to Joshua, the end of the Joshua, you see the significance of Shechem, and this is Mount Ebal. With this picture here, right here, is uh, is actually a tragedy because the wall that was surrounding the altar, if you look just straight in front of where these guys are, there's a road there. They were building this road and they were crushing
Who's
the
they?
wall that was surround the Palestinians.
Okay.
Palestinians were crushing the wall to make gravel for this road that was going right by the altar. And this is a holy site. I mean, if we're talking about Joshua's altar, we're talking about something that was over, 3,500 years, ago. This is a very significant part of the biblical narrative, and what happened and what God did in telling Joshua to build this particular altar. And there's a lot to say about this altar. But the Palestinians came in and they destroyed the wall. And for us who have become attached to the land, and I really invite Christians to really understand the significance, because I think that's the deficit that we have. We don't really understand the weight of this land. We only have to look at the opposition to it, and here we have serious opposition. Why is it that the Palestinians don't feel like, or they can attack these places without consequence? And nowhere else in the world with these kind of holy places would anybody get away with this, except this belongs to the Jewish people. It belongs to it is the declaration of who God is. It
Thank
is
you for saying that.
this is it.
Yes, thank you for
So
saying that.
this is they destroyed the wall here, and what you see in this picture is a lot of our guys, some of our young men. Here's some our young men right here. This is my son Joshua right here. Some of you know Samuel Werp right here. There's several guys right here working. These are the guys that really were hanging the posters. These other guys, these religious guys, these were the guys that really did not want us anywhere close to them.
Okay,
And
so y'all
again,
y'all are now working together here. This is what you're saying.
yeah, and now what's amazing is that these guys, when they see us, it's like, even, forgive me, I know this is the Corona time places, but I mean, these are hugs, and we're in this together.
Amazing.
It is an amazing thing to experience, um, the horrific reality of what was happening. And I don't want to make any uh, I don't want people to think that it's, everything's great, everything's just, wonderful, but there is something that's happening as Christians begin to believe the reality, that touchable, like you said, that touchable reality
Right.
of God's word, of God and what He promised He would do. When Christians grab hold of that,
Yeah.
when we take God out of that building that we have in St. Louis, or wherever,
Yeah.
we decide to build that place and just say, this is where God is.
That's right. That's right.
God announces where where he wants to put his name.
I love that,
And
Tom. So
and so
powerful.
this is important for us. And this is when we gain, I think, a place, especially with the zealous religious community, we gain commonality. Uh, there's a common thing here that we're both looking for, and that is the sanctification of God's name.
Yes.
And that's what we all have to be. That we all need to have that journey and that purpose.
Well, that's a great way to say it. We y'all are now co-laboring to sanctify God's name and through the land, the physical land. So that brings me to my next question, which is about this whole friendship, because here we are looking at evidence of a genuine friendship based on common goals here for the land of Israel and supporting the Jewish people specifically, and where you are located in Samaria. Now, this next question is about Christians who still may not understand the importance of what you and many Christians are doing, working alongside the Jews. So my question is this: with our goal being to build friendships, to become true, genuine friends to the Jewish people in the land of Israel, because of what you just said, sanctifying God's name, how should Christians navigate befriending Jewish people without any kind of evangelizing agenda whatsoever, which is typical Christian theology in some places? How should we navigate these? You know, it's kind of a crazy question to ask, really, because I mean, how do you navigate any friendship, right? Why is it so difficult or different with Jewish people? For us, for not for them, but for us, what would you say to someone regarding that? How do you become a friend to a Jewish person who may or may not want to be your friend for right reasons?
Right. Yeah, I think the first thing, and I think a lot of Christians make the mistake of coming in here with, you know, arrogance. Replacement theology is an arrogant faith. It's an arrogant religion. Unfortunately, that most Christians today, and I want to apologize beforehand because I'm usually very good at offending, especially Christians a lot of times. But our arrogance has led to a lot of horrific things in history, and especially concerning the Jewish people. Um, the the purpose, I believe, the sole purpose, and without getting into the theologies of everything, but the sole purpose of our existence is to bring that the identity of the nations, that because we have this verse that both Jews say and Christians say, that this house shall be a house of prayer for all nations. The prophet Isaiah spoke that. We see it in the New Testament as well. But most Christians don't really understand this house shall be a house of prayer. Every Jew understands this house shall be a house of prayer for all nations.
Right.
They understand what the significance of that is. Christians, a Jewish person would never look at, and I'm speaking here, and there's, amazing Jewish friends on this program here, and I don't want to speak, for you, but I hear, when we speak about Jerusalem, there's only one Jerusalem. There's never a replacement for Jerusalem, and there's never going to be a replacement for Israel or a replacement for what God promised.
Right.
It's as if he spoke light into existence. We don't argue that there's light or not light. We don't argue whether there's a moon or not a moon, or a sun and not a sun. All of these things was spoken, and we believe as Christians that it was spoken into being. These promises are that strong.
That's right.
And so this is the place for us, is to get passionate about God's word, about his promises. If we're going to see, and I fully believe this now, if we're going to see peace, real peace on this earth, it's not going to be a peace that's developed or contrived by men. It's going to be a peace that God establishes in the way that he established it. and that's going to be through the restoration of Israel, when the God's word, the
Yes.
creator of of the universe, is actually coming out of Jerusalem. It's going to be coming out of this holy place, this house of prayer for all nations.
Right.
And we have something to look forward to, because who's leading the way? It's just like the prophet said. Who's leading the way? Our Jewish brothers and sisters are
Yeah.
leading the way, and we're really literally having to grab hold of their fringes, and we're saying, take us to to your God,
Right.
show
Right.
us.
Right.
So
That is so powerful, and that is so passionate, and that is the big picture. And we have just a couple more minutes left. I have one more question for you. With that passion and with the bigger picture of what you're saying, all eyes on Jerusalem, all eyes on Israel, because I think someone in our last call, might have been Ari, said, when people really grasp hold of following Israel, because when Israel is going to be redeemed, or God's name is going to be brought to life like it's happening right now, the whole world's going to benefit. We need to be cheering Israel on. We need to be right alongside them. So with all of that said, back to your story, Tommy, you didn't start out that way, but you've got the vision. You are so, in so many ways, light years ahead of most of us in our understanding of what you're talking about. But so you've been changed so much so that you've endured true persecution from even here in the States. Tell us about that time, if you can. We have about 2 minutes left. When you had already gone through this life change and you were brought to Washington, D.C. because you had to testify. They were coming after you to shut you down because of what you and Hayavel were trying to do to help the Jewish people. And something about the New York Times. Can you share quickly about that?
yeah, we had this crazy idea that we were just going to come here and help vineyards, help vineyard owners, help plant vines, help harvest, help prune, help help do whatever we needed to do to make these vines exist. But what we found is that whenever you touch the apple of God's eye, you are, and the phrase "the apple of God's eye" is kind of used as you're messing with it. But anytime you're part, it's a very sensitive thing. But the what we found was really very quickly is that the world hates this place. Now, what I just showed you in that map earlier, just a while ago, is a map here that is this area, these two humps right here, these two mountain ranges right here that I've got my arrow on here. It's about the size of Rhode Island. It is a square mass of Rhode Island. Now, this land mass right here is has the literal hatred of a lot of the first world governments, and even in the past, and even unfortunately, possibly even now, we're going to see some real resistance to this place. We're going to hear the occupation terminology again. We're going to hear all these other things. So what happened was in the Obama administration is that there was such hatred on this that from the White House came these secret meetings with the IRS to actually come after uh, uh, nonprofits, 501c3s that were supporting Judea and Samaria. Uh, Kufi was one of those, and Hayuvel was one of those. And what happened in the story, the New York Times story, is the 2010 story, June, I think, 2010. Um, but what happened was is that Hayuvel's story became the first, the first part of this like 5,000 word article. It's front page, everything, and we became the last. We became the main story from the beginning, and then ending with our story. And they chose to write this. They were really coming after us, and our we had. had befriended a lawyer in Nashville, and he said, this article, what did this article say? This article said that Hayuvel was effectively obstructing the creation of a Palestinian state. Now, for me, I was like, wow, we had to pay a lot of money for that kind of promotion, because everybody that we talk to would love to be said, that all of our friends would say, wow, what a great thing that they said to us, but or about us, that we were effectively obstructing the creation of a Palestinian state. But the reality, and there was a lot of other stuff in that article that wasn't true, and they were really saying stuff that wasn't about us, and they were getting it. They were interviewing the Palestinians as well, and you can imagine what they were saying about us. So what happened is that the president started going after nonprofits, from
We're talking about
financially.
Obama. Are you talking about Obama?
Yeah. President Obama started coming after specifically those organizations that were supporting not just Israel, but supporting Judea and Samaria. And so we were the first ones that they came after. That we found ourselves a little bit after, it was a few days after Christmas, that they were coming to our house to do a field audit. And a field audit is not a nice audit. It is they're coming in and they're taking all this stuff. And we're only, at this time, we're only, as far as our 501c3, we're only maybe three years old. Our lawyer quickly did some stuff, and so we're not. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, they
What'd you
came
say?
to your house? Literally?
Can we what?
They came to your house, literally?
No, we were able to keep them from coming to our house. We had them go to our lawyer's office. We had to bring all of our stuff to the lawyer's office. So they did it. Now, we had no idea that this was that we were being attacked. We had we just thought, what, this is just what you do when you're a nonprofit. They just kind of, our number got picked, and because it only came out later when all of these other organizations started getting the same harassment. And so that's what happened. So there was it was in the news for a long time. There was quite a few instances. Some of the president's advisors, Dick Morris, said that, and I got to use the exact language he said, but he said that Hayuvel was a pain in the rear end to the president, and which was, it was kind of, for me, it was kind of like, what is this? This is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Where in the world are you going to have a group of people planting vineyards and harvesting grapes that the president of the United States gives a rip about?
Right.
This doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
So it just proves to me, and I hope it proves to everybody here, that the world really has a problem with God, and they just can't stand to see the word of God. It's just, it's not even a natural hatred. It's like, it's not even something like, oh, that's just foolishness. No, there's action that they're taking against stopping it, stopping everything. My faith, since I've been here, has only is exploded. I mean,
Right.
I see every day my Jewish friends here, they're walking it out, and it's a challenge for me personally, that I don't serve a God that I just have to go to church every week and that's okay. The prophet Isaiah says, how beautiful are the feet of those who come and say to Zion, your God reigns.
Yes, that's a
And
great way to stop and end on that note, because that is exactly what you're saying. And how can you argue with that? Thank you, Tommy. We're out of time. We have just a couple of minutes for a Q&A session.
Yeah.
Tom has more to share with us, guys. Next week, he's going to wrap up his series, and which started out to be God's Plan to Save America. But we needed context for that. And I think he did a great job today of sharing that context. And then next week he'll wrap up. So he has more to share. But Tom, if you're done with your screen share, let's go to our friends and see if we have time for a couple of questions. If you have a question, please, I guess, just raise your hand so I can see. And you can then unmute yourself, or even a comment if you have a comment about Tommy's presentation or a question. Anybody? Okay.
I do.
Okay. Hey,
Mike Isley.
Hi, Mike.
What was her last name? Isley?
Isley.
Okay.
I just wanted to let you know that I've got my Pratt wine for Friday night and a few other things, but from Jaco Berg. So, but I just wanted to say that I was lucky to be in Israel when all those posters were plastered all over Israel. And I just now think how God has such a great sense of humor. Everybody in Israel knew who Tommy Waller was. And Tommy, we love you very much. I just wanted you to know.
Yeah.
It's wonderful.
No, I can tell you that there's a couple of times, relationally, I struggle sometimes, and all of us do, I think, whenever we get hurt, or there was several times, Ann knows some of these stories, and there was several times when I was like a gut shot, like it was, all right, it's over. We're done.
Oh.
I'm not going to be able to get it. Let me tell you the rest of that story though, with the posters. And if I can tell it without getting too emotional, but the biggest thing that happened in that event, that the community of Harbor Ka went out and tore every one of those down.
Wow.
We couldn't do it.
It's a word.
We couldn't do it. We couldn't go out there and do it. But they took spray cans and they took all of those posters off. And it was a real message to us that they were standing. They didn't, and Lord knows that I have made mistakes and said things. And I came from Tennessee. I never knew a Jewish person. I know the Jewish people are on this program. I never met. I went to Rocky Valley Baptist Church in Lebanon, Tennessee. There was no Jewish synagogue in 200-mile radius, from where I was. I was never around any. And so the grace and the mercy that they showed me as a Christian, as somebody that was just saying, I want to walk in this place. I want to, this is overwhelming to me to see the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the God of Israel, in the way that I'm seeing it now. This is really, what could I do?
Yes.
So they to me, this community is about, right now, is almost 500 families here. We have to give everything to help these guys, because they have the vision of what the restoration is going to look like.
Yes.
It's a big thing.
Very inspiring, so inspiring. I mean, it just whets your appetite when you get the vision. So thank you for sharing. Anybody else have a question or a comment? We have a couple more minutes.
Hi, this is Nancy.
Oh, Nancy, go ahead, Nancy.
Yeah, I was trying to get my raised hand to come on, but I don't know. Wasn't for me. I did just want to thank you and just let you know that I was thoroughly so blessed by the presentation last week, but also today's was just touching in a different way, just hearing your testimony and what you walked through in your obedience to God, because obedience is better than sacrifice. And I know that it isn't often always easy to stay the course. and to just have a face like set like a flint and just, staying with it and staying in it. So I just wanted to let you know that I added you to my prayer list, which you'll never get off now, ever.
Oh,
And
hallelujah.
then I
This is all
wanted
worth
to
it then.
also share that your testimony, it just gave me a picture of being in a move of God, in the sense of that he's
Mhm.
after one new man, and then seeing someone that's actually walking in the precursors of that. It was just so touching in that way. That was the part that really touched me the most, because that scripture came up in my spirit, and I knew the Lord was speaking to me that he's in the precursor of what I'm after. And it's not that he just began being after it, obviously, but when you can begin to see the manifestation of something from the spirit realm into the natural realm, that's
right.
just very, very impressive to me.
That's
But anyway, I don't want to take all day.
Thanks,
I just wanted to
Nancy.
thank
No,
you.
it's beautiful. It's so beautiful. It's right. It's true. I mean, God is the God of the whole world, but he uses his chosen people to teach us things, but he
Mhm.
loves
And
us
to
all.
do and to get certain things done.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
there are definitely
Mhm.
our blueprint. So we're so we appreciate that comment.
And I do want to say before we leave here that, what happened to me, I never want to say um, that I was persecuted, because in light of the persecution that we gave, or that we participated in against the Jewish people, I didn't suffer anything. I had nothing. The Jewish people had every right to run me off of here.
It's good.
And it was only because of a another Jewish community that I'm here, and the rabbi and the vision of the rabbi. There's only one reason, and Harbor High, I landed in this community. I didn't land in any other community, which is also a miracle. I don't know that there's another community that would have taken on what this community has taken on.
Well, that's an
And
important distinction that you make about the idea of persecution. There's a huge difference. There's no comparison. So thank you for saying that.
Oh, yeah.
Ann Stacy, do you have a question?
Well, I have a comment,
Okay.
and what we've tried to work toward by having, I mean, Tommy's been here multiple times, and several other of you, Lori and Mike, is that we have, I mean, the ship, the Christian ship, so forth or so on, or we got to get it turned around. And people just have to understand that we are replete with replacement theology. But I have come to believe that if you can just get people to sit down at a table and talk together, and religious Jews, Orthodox Jews, believers,
secular Jews.
Jewish believers,
Yeah.
if you can sit down with them, I tell you, it all goes out the door. And so that's what we're attempting to do. And that is we're try to bring people who
Mhm.
already have this understanding, and try to bring Jewish people. We got some
Can't hear you.
Ann, excuse me, your hand covered the microphone for a second. We couldn't hear you anymore.
Well, I don't know where I was.
You're back. You're back.
Okay. Well, anyway, we have to get the ship turned around, and that's what we're trying to
Yeah.
do by bringing Jews and Christians together, Christians that we know have the same thought that we do, that there is, that
Like-minded.
we have to be a blessing to the Jewish people, to Israel.
Yeah, and we will not talk. Yes, and I'll just add to what you're saying, and we will not tolerate anybody trying to impose their theology on the Jewish people or anything else like that. We're here to be friends. Can we just be friends? Can we just be friends? I mean, let's
Should write a
start
song
there.
about that.
Yeah.
I love that you make that point very strong, because it's always hard for me to understand the division of people, because I guess because I didn't grow up like that. And I've never been that way, and I can go anywhere in the world, and I spend most of my life in Jerusalem. I mean, around Israel and different places. And I never could even get my mind around anyone thinking replacement any.
Right.
When, I mean, I just don't even know where that came from. I mean, that's.
I think the biggest surprise for me personally, growing up in the church, and I was practically born in the church. I was there from day one, when the first, and never, I was that person. I have learned more from, and this is a hard thing, because this is a hard thing for Christians to really grasp. The oracles of God were given to and assigned to a particular people, and it wasn't Christianity.
That's
The oracles of God were given to keep. They were kept, sacredly kept by the Jewish people. I've learned more about the Word of God here in this place than I ever learned in my church, and I say that with shame, because we should be learning about the Word of God. But there's something that the Jewish people, and I don't mean to embarrass the Jews that are on here, but the Jews that I'm here with in Har Brakah, there's something about that they're coming here, and they're teaching us the things that they were responsible to keep, and I'm getting something very deep from that relationship, and that's their vision here. And they're not coming after my faith, but my faith is being my faith is becoming even stronger. It is a hard thing to say to Jews, but I'm a stronger Christian today, because I'm learning what my place is, what my position is, and that position is not anti-Semitic. It's not opposing what God is doing in Israel. It is validating, and that's the thing I've learned over the last 17 years.
That's good.
Tommy, that is beautiful. That is probably the biggest statement of all of this. This is where it's come to, and that is the most beautiful thing to hear. To our Jewish brothers and sisters and our friends, we thank you for enriching our lives as Christians.
Absolutely.
I mean, we just love having you in our lives. I can echo that. I've learned more from my Jewish friends than I have from anybody else. So thank you. Guys, we are out of time for today. Now, a couple last little minute things. I want to do a quick screen share. And I want to remind you, Tommy's going to join us one more time next Sunday, same time, same place, same Zoom link. Please save that Zoom link. Let me do a quick screen share. I want to encourage you all to visit Tommy's website and to consider doing a love offering to High Avail. The website's highlighted, and they are a nonprofit. So if you want to give him a donation for his time that he's spending with us, this is where you would go. So it's serveisrael.com, and then you can find the donate button there. And lastly, I just want to say thank you all for joining us. Next time, bring a friend. We want to grow this circle of friends. Invite people. You've got the link. Just pass the link to them, or they can email me for it. It's fine. And I think that's all we have for today. Again, thanks for joining us, Tommy. We're so glad that we had you with us. Thank you for
this is fun.
It was great.
I'm still awake too. So
yeah.
This is good.
All right, guys. Let's give a good hand to Tommy Waller with High Avail.
All right.
Okay, guys.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, we'll see you next week. Take care. Bye-bye.
Shavua Tov.
You too. Have a good week.